In the year 1928, a cult is intent on summoning an evil deity with the ultimate goal of wiping out all civilization. Only a young sorceress from Peru has the power to put an end to these plans. This is Viento!
Viento is one of 12 games included in Evercade Cartridge 23, Renovation Collection 1. Viento was only released for the Sega Genesis/Mega Drive in 1991 and is the first in a trilogy of games. The second game in the series was Ernest Evans, which was also released for the Genesis/Mega Drive, but Japan also received a version for the Sega Mega CD as well. Annet Futatabi is the final game in this series, and it was only released in Japan for the Sega Mega CD. Before I researched these games, I was already aware of Viento and Ernest Evans, but I had no idea these games were related.
If you're into the high-tech and high-intrigue action of 16-bit gameplay's hottest cart, you know I'm talking about Viento for the Genesis. What you may not know is that Viento means the wind, and that pretty well describes the fast action as our hero fights the mobsters of Chicago in the 1920s. Whoa!
Well, that clip was from a 1992 episode of GamePro TV, and Mr. J.D. Roth got most of the details about the game correct, though it is an oversimplification of the plot. The game does take place in the 1920s, 1928 to be specific, and you do fight mobsters, only in New York, not Chicago like he said. The main antagonist ultimately is the Hester group, who are planning a sacrifice ceremony in the still under construction Empire State Building. This sacrifice is meant to summon Hester, a powerful deity that will destroy modern civilization. The only one that can stop them is Annet, a young sorceress with a blood relationship with Hester. It is through this relationship that Annet has mastered the power of wind. However, it will not be easy for Annet to stop the Hester group, as they have many allies, including the largest mob in New York. Viento is a run-and-gun platformer of sorts, as you control Annet as she runs through the levels attacking enemies with a boomerang, her main method of attack. Annet also possesses various magical abilities which are slowly unlocked throughout the game. As you would expect, the more powerful the magic, the more magic points that are consumed. The magic used is selected by how long you hold down the magic button. Magic points are automatically replenished, so you really aren't limited to the amount of magic you can use, just how frequently you can use it. Annet only has one life, so if your health bar is completely depleted, it's game over. The trade-off is that the health bar will increase in size as enemies are eliminated, and most enemies won't cause too much damage if Annet gets hit. And that means that Annet can take a lot of punishment before dying. If you do get a game over, you can't continue from the start of the last stage you were on, but you only get 3 continues before you're forced to start the game from the very beginning. Personally, I think this game is incredibly fun. It looked like it would have been back when I saw it on GamePro TV, and now that I've actually played it, I can say that it definitely is. The game is fast-paced, the boomerang is fun for a main attack, and you've got magical abilities that can change things up. You don't even have to worry about conserving magic, since the MP meter recharges fairly quickly. I also appreciate that Annet can take a ton of damage before actually dying. The game can get quite difficult regardless, and I was stuck on some bosses for some time before I was actually able to beat them. I mean, even the first boss has 3 forms, but even then I wouldn't count that as a negative necessarily. The only thing that really annoyed me were the bats in the last level. There were just way too many of them, and they just kept popping up constantly to the point where they were slowing down the game. I think they should have eased up a bit on the bats, especially since that level was sort of a maze to begin with. This is the game I was most looking forward to playing in Renovation Collection 1, and I have to say I was not let down. And here we are with our current rankings for that collection. So our 4th game here, Viento, I believe I gotta put this on a tier S. I liked it that much. And here we are with our rankings of every Evercade game, and we're gonna grab Viento here, scroll on up to tier S and find a place for it here. I'm gonna put it right here near the top of the S tier, in between Double Dragon 2 for the NES and Renegade for the NES. I've got 3 interesting codes here for Viento, and they all require controller button inputs, and since the Evercade controls can be remapped, I'll be referring to those buttons as if we were using the original Sega Genesis controllers. First, if you pause the game and press up, left, right, down, and then C, you'll instantly increase your magic to the next level. You can keep repeating this until you gain all the magical abilities. This is useful if you want to play around with magic near the beginning of the game you wouldn't normally get till later. Second, if you pause the game and press up, left, right, down, and then B, you'll instantly warp to the next stage. You can do this anywhere on any level, and you wouldn't even miss any cutscenes because if you perform the code during an end-of-level boss fight, you'll get taken straight to the cutscene that follows it. You can even do this trick on the final boss, meaning that you can see the game's whole story if you wanted to without even attacking one enemy. Well, if you've paid attention so far, you could probably guess what the last code is. Yep, you pause the game and press up, left, right, down, and then A. This will activate a really strange super slow motion mode. What makes it strange is that not only does the game move super slow, but the game literally freezes in time if you're not pushing any inputs on the controller. It's a very interesting mode, and you can return the game to normal just by hitting the start button. And that'll wrap it up for El Viento. It may be difficult at times, but it's definitely my favorite of the collection so far. Next time I'll be looking at Exile from the same cartridge, Renovation Collection 1.